are joining, and many of the regular devotees have already joined. So if it's okay, we can get started, Prabhu. So today is Sunday, 6th of December 2020. So on behalf of Iskcon Scarborough, we'd like to warmly welcome each one of you to this ninth successive month of virtual classes. It's the beautiful month of Margasirsa, which is also referred to as Keshava Mas. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 10.35, Masana Margasir of months, I am Margasirsa, which is November, December time frame in general. So today we are honored to welcome back His Grace Rohinipriya Prabhu to give his, I think it's sixth class since March of 2020. He's given fascinating classes. The topics are cleaning the temple of our heart. I think it was a two-part series followed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the guest topic on working without attachment, and also another topic titled Honesty, a Rich Legacy. Then we had a class on Govardhan Leela, and today it's a very unique topic, honey, the symbol of sweetness and prosperity. So for the benefit of all the devotees, all our classes are recorded and posted on YouTube, and you can also search in our website. Rohinipriya Prabhu graduated with an MBBS degree from India, Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery, but did not pursue his career as a doctor to cure sick patients, but started his lifelong study of Bhakti Yoga after his graduation from the university. And since then, he's been traveling and preaching the essence of the scriptures around the world. So we're grateful to Prabhu. He's currently based out of Seattle, and hopefully he may be able to come to Canada a little later next year, depending on how things work out with the travel restrictions. So with that, I would like to invite His Grace Rohinipriya Prabhu to speak us on the topic of honey, the symbol of sweetness and prosperity. We will extend it till 12:15 because we'll have 1 hour class. So we'll go on for 15 minutes more than our scheduled close time. And last few minutes we will take questions. And I kindly urge more devotees to ask questions. Okay, so it doesn't have to be the same person or one or two people asking the question, and that does not have to be the norm. We want this to be opened up so everybody can ask the question, and this is an opportunity to clarify the questions that you may have. And please restrict your questions, if possible, to the topic that Prabhu is speaking today, so that there'll be continuity. So with that, I will hand it over to His Grace Rohinipriya. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone, especially all the devotees from our Iskcon Scarborough Yatra congregation. And I'm very happy to be able to serve all of you once again. I'm sorry I was a bit late today, and therefore we will be extending the program a little bit today. So I'm extremely sorry. And coming to our topic, honey, the symbol of sweetness and prosperity. I was recently reading a wonderful purport from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and this purport very much excited me. And this purport, this is from the first canto, 11th chapter, verse number 26. Srila Prabhupada, he writes, the essence of everything is the Supreme Lord. He is called the Saram. And those who sing and talk about him are called the Sarangas, or the pure devotees. The pure devotees are always hankering after the lotus feet of the Lord. The lotus feet has a kind of honey which is transcendently relished by the devotees. They are like the bees who are always after the honey. Srila Rupa Goswami, the great devotee Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, has sung a song. O my Lord Krishna, I beg to offer my prayers unto you. My mind is like the bee, and it is after some honey. Kindly therefore give my bee mind a place at your lotus feet, which are the resources of all transcendental honey. I know that even big demigods like Brahma do not see the rays of the nails of your lotus feet, even though they are engaged in deep meditation for years together. Still, O infallible one, my ambition is such, for you are very merciful to your surrendered devotees. O Madhava, I also know that I have no genuine devotion for the service of your lotus feet, but because your lordship is inconceivably powerful, you can do what is impossible to be done. Your lotus feet can deride even the nectar of the heavenly kingdom, and therefore I am very much attracted by them. O Supreme Eternal, please therefore let my mind be fixed at your lotus feet so that I may eternally be able to relish the taste of your transcendental service. And then I looked up on Google to see if there is something about honey that could be interesting. And surprise, I found that honey typically symbolizes sweetness and well-being or prosperity. Many lands have been addressed as the land of milk and honey. In a Krishna consciousness, we always need inspiration. And inspiration should be such that it gives us some taste. There is some sweetness in the experiences that inspire us. There should be some taste in the experiences that we have when we practice spiritual life with great motivation. Many a times, words such as motivation, inspiration are very symbolic of struggle. Determination also is another word that symbolizes or that kind of brings to the mind the idea of hardship, harshness, struggle. One must be determined to do such and such. So there is the idea that one has to struggle, one has to fight, one has to be brave. So this is all right. Definitely, as humans, as conscious beings, we have to work and work hard, because time gives us one opportunity, and if we use that opportunity, then we receive the results, and if the opportunity is lost, then it is gone forever. That is how time is in this material world. So as rational humans or thoughtful human beings, we need to do that. We need to be focused. We need to be able to use our time and energy to one's utmost benefit. So yes, when we speak of inspiration, finding inspiration, or when we speak of being inspired to do something, it could be indicative of finding some space, some place within us, finding some energy within us to go on, or around us to go on. So there is the idea of working hard, or this conception of struggling against all odds. However, as conscious beings, we also need to find some taste. We need to find, we need happiness. We need happy surroundings. We need to be happy within. We need to be able to dive into some source of happiness within and without. And therefore, our experiences in our practices of Krishna consciousness should be filled most of the times with sweetness. That is what Krishna consciousness is about. We've heard that Krishna consciousness is about sweetness, it's about being happy. Many times it is spoken that devotees at least look to be the happiest community in the world. All kind of devotees of the various forms of the Supreme Lord, all the devotees, the entire congregation of devotees worldwide and in the 14 planetary systems, they look quite a happy lot, because they experience some taste, they experience some attraction to Krishna, and for that they work hard, or for that they stay focused. That attraction is so intense, or it is supposed to be so intense, that attraction is supposed to be so mesmerizing that one's attention is completely caught by the object of our attraction, Krishna. In another place, in the when Shukdev Maharaj is speaking to Parikshit, to King Parikshit, he states what is the nature of devotees. Shukdev Goswami says, the devotees of the Lord are accustomed to licking up the honey available from the lotus feet of the Lord. What is the use of topics which simply waste one's valuable life? Athavasya padam bhoja makaranda liham satam kimanne rasadalape ayusho yadasadvyayaha. So makaranda liham satam. Makaranda is a Sanskrit word for honey. So makaranda liham means tasting the nectar of the honey. Satam are the devotees of the Lord. So the topics of the Lord and the topics which glorify the various aspects of service to the Lord, whether it is in terms of the Lord's beauty, whether it describes the Lord's holy, uh, the holy dham, the Lord's holy abode, whether it describes the activities of the devotees of the Lord, whether there are descriptions of the Lord's paraphernalia, the Lord's associates, whichever it may be. These topics attract the attention of the devotees because uh, they feel that it is nectarian. They feel that it is sweet like honey. These topics are so wonderful that having tasted it, one gets stuck onto such nectarian topics. These topics are very sticky. If one comes in contact with the topics of Krishna consciousness, then we find that we are stuck onto it. Just as as my attempt at making a joke. Someone asked that how is it that bees always have sticky hair? The bees, they have hair on their legs. That is where the pollen gets stuck and they carry pollination or they participate in the pollination process. Anyways, so the question is, why do bees have sticky hair? And the answer is because they use honeycombs. Hair comb like that.
It's a nice one, Prabhu.
Thanks. So devotees, we never realize that how when we put our fingers, when we kind of enter into the topics of Krishna, our fingers becomes sticky. You kind of get attached to those beautiful descriptions about Krishna and Krishna consciousness. And that is the sweetness that is very often spoken about by various descriptions in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prosperity is another aspect of a happy living, prosperity or well-being. Typically, a prosperous person would be considered as somebody who has a lot of wealth or comfort, etc. Facilities, more to do with wealth, more to do with having properties, real estate, or facilities, etc. So being prosperous. And that is right too. What another question? And there is a kind of a pun intended here. It is also kind of a joke. Another question asked, what would a bee who's truant, who's not behaving properly, be behaving properly? What would a bee be told? And the answer is beehive. It's like an accented way of saying beehive. Behave.
Behave.
Yeah. So, so beehive. So yes, prosperity. We are already always taught that one must take care of one's pennies so that one can be prosperous. Um, Similarly, in our Krishna consciousness, we have to understand that when we do our practices of Krishna consciousness, when we are sincere in our sadhana, in our daily practices, then that helps us uh, be behaved, that helps us be properly situated and focused and oriented in our human form of life. And by when we when such a behavior naturally dawns upon us, when it naturally grows within us, such an attitude of sincerity and practices discipline, uh, then it reveals a kind of prosperity that is unimaginable in this material world. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is the teachings that Yamaraj, or the instructions that Yamaraj is giving to his servants, the Yamadutas. It is about how to distinguish between those who are well behaved and who may not be well behaved. It is not just the externals, but it is to do with how what their consciousness is, what their intents are, between well behaved and truant people, the difference. And Yamaraji says that devotees who always lick the honey from the lotus feet of Lord Krishna do not care at all for material activities which are performed under the three modes of material nature and which bring only misery. Indeed, devotees never give up the lotus feet of Krishna to return to material activities. Others, however, who are addicted to Vedic rituals because they have neglected the service of the lotus feet of the Lord and are enchanted by lusty desires, sometimes perform acts of atonement. Nevertheless, being incompletely purified, they return to sinful activities again and again. So Yamaraji is the verse is Krishnangri Padma Madulanna Punar Vishrishta Maya Guneshu Ramate Vrijina Vaheshu Anyastu Kamahata Atmaraja Pramarshitam Ihet Karma Yata Eva Raja Panasyat. Krishnangri Padma Madhulin. Madhu is the Sanskrit name for honey. Madhu also means sweetness. Krishna is called as Madhu too. Madhupati. One of Krishna's names is Madhupati or Madhu. So this is from the 6th canto, chapter 3, verse number 33. This description. Within this message, Yamaraji is pointing out to the fact that people sometimes or many a times may be repentant. They may feel unhappy with the way they have performed and they may want to repent and reform. However, if that repentance is simply out of a desire to be materially prosperous, or if it is out of fear of getting retribution, if the repentance is just to reassure or be reassured about our future, then the consciousness is incompletely purified. Then there are greater chances that one may go back to activities that which are called as sinful activities. And the reason is that one is attached to that which is not Krishna. Even if we perform pious activities which are unrelated to Krishna, for example, pious activities without acceptance of the Supreme Lord, pious activities just believing that karma is all powerful and therefore if I act good now, I will have a better future. And for this purpose, if I have to accept the Supreme Lord, all right. So if there is less compliance or not proper compliance with the acceptance of the reality of Krishna, then such pious activities, which are referred to as here in this verse, Yamaraji is calling them as Vedic rituals. Iheta karma yatah. Would not give us the ultimate desired result. You may get some kind of desired result, but not the ultimate desired result. So, what is the right consciousness in which such activities could be performed? The right consciousness is only available if one tastes sweetness. Just as one finds sweetness in various objects in this material world, one similarly finds sweetness in all the activities of our spiritual practices. We can begin with a couple, one or two, like we may like kirtan, or we may like reading, or we may like serving, shringar, various, we may like to do various kinds of decorations. Then the intent there is to please the Supreme Lord, and the activity helps us bring forth our intent, or it carries our intent to the Supreme Lord. So Yamaraji, he says that this consciousness or this attraction is found within the devotees because they lick the honey from the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. And when you speak of lotus feet of Lord Krishna, it is definitely all the form of the Lord, that is the physical form. When we speak in terms of physical, like the Lord has a form. So the lotus feet is very attractive because just the feature of the lotus feet is attractive. You get attracted to various features of people around you. So Krishna has beautiful features too. Every limb of his body is very attractive, very well formed. In most probability, the idea of the lotus feet is to do with service. It's about taking shelter and rendering service. So when service is done, just because we are attracted to that service, knowing very well that this is being performed for the pleasure of Krishna, for the pleasure of Shri Radha and Krishna, then that hard work, just as the bees, they do the hard work to gather the honey, and the nectar is tasted by uh, so many other people too. So similarly, the hard work that we put in, then Krishna becomes pleased because Krishna, uh, he tastes the texture or the consistency of our service, and we taste the sweetness of Krishna being pleased. Uh, this is a realization that has been referred to time and again in our literatures, in our Vedic scriptures. So, devotees do not uh, miss out on the material prosperity that may be around us if we do not have it. Why? Because they are tasting the honey from the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So there is material prosperity, which is all right. At the same time, being able to or having an opportunity to be free from the idea that prosperity has a beginning and an end, and subscribing to the idea or being subscribers of the idea that prosperity is eternal is only possible when we have access to spiritual wealth or access to the spiritual domain or access to spiritual happiness. So material prosperity is all right. However, it has a beginning and an end. That is for sure. It has a manufacturing date and it has an expiry date. The experience of tasting the existence, the the conception or the feeling of Krishna's pleasure, Krishna being pleased, is eternal. And that is what makes Krishna consciousness attractive. The externals of Krishna consciousness definitely attractive because session of devotees when there is a very good kirtan happening or being in front of the deities and having a wonderful experience of seeing them, of seeing how well they are being served, their shringar, their decorations, etc., 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 or in prasad for that extent. Uh, this is coming through material ingredients. The senses can uh, interact with the material ingredients that have been spiritualized. Like the deity is made up of marble, which is it is a spiritual entity now or spiritual moiety now. Similar spices. Uh, However, it is spiritualized now because Krishna has accepted that food, that cooked food. Similarly, the decorations are flowers and leaves and various other uh, objects that are used, various other paraphernalia, which are all material, but now because they are on the altar, so they are spiritualized. It is now spiritual. So through these experiences, through such means, one can access or one to access that which is coming through these elements of material creation, uh, of being in touch with. And when we contact that abode of pleasure, the abode of sweetness, when we contact that, when we touch that, when we are able to access that, then we access something that is eternal. So we use our material senses uh, to facilitate that experience. We use this material body. We use the books, which are actually words. They're just script. Are spiritualized objects now, which help facilitate us achieve that experience, which is eternal, which is never lost. So that experience, that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord Krishna. And just as Krishna is the abode of sweetness, madhurya, or sweetness with unlimited compassion added to it, specially added to it, specially flavored by that, is the form of Lord Chaitanya that is called as Audarya. And when the Lord is compassionate, you know, uh, if somebody becomes compassionate towards us, then they can offer us prosperity too. Yes. So, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describing how the devotees of Lord Chaitanya are so connected to him. Shri Chaitanya Padambhoja Madhupebhyo Namo Namaha Gandhabhag Bhavet. Shri Chaitanya Padambhoja Madhupebhyo Namo Namaha. Madhu, the word Madhu is again used here. Madhu, these are bee like, and they always taste the honey of the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. Even a doggish non-devotee somehow takes shelter of such devotees. He or she enjoys the aroma of that beautiful lotus flower that has the honey in it. So we spoke about, very briefly from the scriptures, we spoke about how service unto the Supreme Lord and taking shelter of the Supreme Lord, which are symbolized by his lotus feet, are very sweet, like honey. And honey also brings in prosperity because the Lord is very compassionate. Where is the Lord available and how is the Lord available? Can we access him by our own individual abilities? Yes, it is by our own effort that we have to access the Lord's sweetness so that we have prosperity in our lives. However, our individual efforts are, they become more sublime, or our individual efforts are properly rewarded when we follow in the footsteps of those who are completely surrendered to their Lord. Because those surrendered souls, they are following in the footsteps of the previous surrendered souls, or the parampara. So there is a parampara of followership. And this parampara has been established since time immemorial. Gopi Bhartur Pada Kamalayor Das Das Anudas. To practice our spiritual lives in the mood of being the servant of the servant of the servant of those who serve Krishna, the gopis, the Lord of the gopis. So, typically, when the scriptures, the ancient scriptures, especially the Vedic scriptures, refer to a dog, they refer to this aspect of a dog, this mentality of a dog. There are various ways that a dog has, the dog's qualities have been glorified in the scriptures too. And there are certain aspects of a dog's mentality that has been shown to be detrimental. So here, the performs certain acts that are unhealthy for the dog itself. The dog is not able to discriminate between exalted personalities and ordinary personalities too. So a doggish non-devotee, Shwapi, Shwa means a dog. So because of this quality that a dog has, and plus a dog would also be not very concerned about the kind of food that it eats. So it eats a dog, a street dog specifically, eats nasty things, consumes unmentionable food objects. For the dog, it may be food, but for humans, it's unmentionable. So somebody who has a mentality like that is considered to be having the mentality of a dog. So a non-devotee or someone who gets easily distracted, wants to taste uh, um, unmentionable things, which are basically taste material happiness. So even if such a devotee takes shelter of those who are surrendered to other surrendered souls, gets the opportunity to taste the aroma of the lotus flower, to taste the aroma, to taste, to understand the nature and the benefits of taking shelter of Krishna, the nature and benefits of trying to serve Krishna, of performing devotional service. That is, they otherwise they wouldn't have that facility. So they get that facility to be able to at least feel the fragrance, to smell the fragrance, to enjoy the aroma, and then they will taste the honey later on. When they do the hard work, when they practice their sadhana properly, the regulative principles and the regulated activities, the activities of regulation properly, then they will taste the honey too. So first there is the fragrance that they enjoy, and then they enjoy the taste of the honey also. So Lord Chaitanya is specifically uh, uh, glorious in this age of Kali Yuga, because in this age of Kali Yuga there is the need to receive a lot of compassion. Life is really very challenging in Kali Yuga, because our intentions are so very skewed in Kali Yuga that we are a danger to ourselves more than anyone else. We hurt ourselves by polluting our consciousness time and again. So we need a lot of compassion. We need a lot of mercy compared to the other ages, in comparison to the other ages. We need somebody to hold us up. And the characteristics of Lord Chaitanya fulfills that need. Hence, in Kali Yuga, we are every soul that comes in touch with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very, very fortunate. You know, there's that beautiful poem. Just the first two lines I will recite. Jadi gaur na hoito, tabe ke hoito, kemone dhori tande. So, if Lord Chaitanya had not been there, then life would have been so difficult. So we are very fortunate to have Lord Chaitanya. He is that extra large reservoir of honey that can give us sweetness and prosperity. Now, having found such devotees who constantly are tasting the nectar of Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet, and uh, because of the association of such devotees, we also enjoy the aroma of the lotus flower that has that honey, which be like bees to taste that honey, to gather that honey. So it is natural to feel gratitude towards such association of devotees, specifically those who go the extra mile. They are called as the siksha. Uh, they go that extra mile. They are very sincere in their own practices. They are very, very focused to be advancing, show us the guiding light. And for such, arises from the heart, just as Thakur Bhaktivinoda has written a prayer. So Thakur Bhaktivinoda is beautifully giving us a goal that is achievable by our own practices in Krishna consciousness. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this world, he appeared to freely make available this ambrosia, this nectar of Krishna Bhakti, of devotional service unto Krishna. And he came with so many associates and so many wonderful devotees who these devotees, through their relationship that they had with Lord Chaitanya, and through the love and service attitude that they exhibited towards Lord Chaitanya, they revealed a world so sweet and so attractive, the world of Navadvip, the world of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, he stated that just to be able to taste the nectar of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes as revealed in Chaitanya Bhagavat and Chaitanya Charitamrita, the people of this world will learn Bengali just to be able to taste it, which is so sweet. So Krishna's pastimes that have been described in the Vedic literatures in the Sanskrit are very sweet. The same Krishna, when he appears as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the sweetness that is revealed is especially favorable for us conditioned souls in Kali Yuga. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very dear to the devotees from Sri Khanda. And in Chaitanya Bhagavat, all the residents of Sri Khanda, which is a small town, which was a small town when Lord Chaitanya was performing his pastimes. Sri Khanda was specific. The entire town was Krishna conscious. They were always chanting the names of Gauranga and Nityananda Prabhus, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. There was one specific devotee about whom I would like to speak very briefly in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Um, he was an associate of Lord Chaitanya. He had come to Navadvip uh, as a young man to study there, and he would uh, always perform wonderful kirtan. Specifically, his dance, in his dancing in kirtan was very attractive to Lord Chaitanya. There were very few devotees that would be able to glorify Lord Chaitanya as a supreme personality of Godhead. Lord Chaitanya would always exhibit the mood of a devotee of Lord Krishna, and therefore, uh, whenever he would hear glorifications about himself, specifically when he would hear devotees glorify him as a supreme Lord, he would cover up his ears with his two hands. Both his ears he would cover up with his hands and call out loudly, Vishnu, Vishnu, Vishnu. He wouldn't want to hear his own glories as a supreme Lord uh, during such uh, times. And he would always say that the living entities can never be the Supreme Lord, can never be equal to the Supreme Lord. This was his mood as a devotee of the Lord. Narhari Sarkar, the devotee that we would like to talk about today, was one of the few devotees that could glorify Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya would hear his glorifications. He could glorify Lord Chaitanya in front of him. That was the sweet relationship that Narhari Sarkar had with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Narhari Sarkar was a resident of Sri Khand. Lord Chaitanya said that his very life and himself he had dedicated to the residents of Sri Khanda. He was their property, and they could do as they wish with him. So he really loved the residents of Sri Khanda. Narhari Sarkar was the son of a very great devotee of Lord Krishna, and he was one of three siblings. And his other siblings were also followers of Lord Chaitanya. One of them was the famous Mukunda Sarkar, who had a son, Raghunandan Thakur, and Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagwat describe the glories of these devotees, these two devotees, Mukunda Sarkar and his son Raghunandan Thakur. Madhava Das, who was a great, very good kirtaniya, singer also, was one of the brothers of Narhari. So Narhari, Mukunda, and Madhava were three brothers. They lived in Sri Khandadham, and every year they would, after Lord Chaitanya had taken sannyas, every year they would, along with the other residents of Sri Khanda like Sulochan and others, they would go to Jagannath Puri and participate in the Rath Yatra celebrations there. And Lord Chaitanya would have 7 parties of kirtaniyas, people, devotees who would sing, dance, play the mridanga, kartals. He would have 7 parties of such devotees perform for the pleasure of Lord Jagannath. And in one of those parties, Narhari Sarkar, along with his nephew Raghunandan, who was very dear to him, very, very dear to him, would be the main dancers. Lord Chaitanya would love to see both of them dance. He would be lost in happiness seeing both of them dance. When Narhari Sarkar was at a slightly advanced age, He was residing in Shrikhanda. Not a very advanced age, but quite an elderly age. His son Raghunandan, his nephew Raghunandan was a young man by now. Lord Nityananda had come to Shrikhanda to visit him from Khardaha. Khardaha was the place where Lord Nityananda was residing after Lord Chaitanya had asked him to come back to Bengal and stay there. So Lord Nityananda came, and there are descriptions that Lord Nityananda had invoked the presence of Lord Gauranga to come. So both Gaur and Nitai were there, and Narhari could see both of them. So he was very, very happy to have them come to his house. He invited them, he gave them a nice place to sit, and he worshipped them, he offered them wonderful prasad, and both Gaur and Nitai were very happy to reciprocate with him. And Narhari was so happy to see both of them in his house. Then Lord Nityananda, he revealed the mood of Balaram. He said, now that I'm so very happy here, I need my Varuni, I need honey to drink. Madhu, give me Madhu. Varuni, sometimes Lord Nityananda, Lord Balaram would refer to it as Madhu. Varuni is a special drink made out of honey that is offered to Lord Balaram. It is his favorite drink. So, where is Madhu? And Narhari Sarkar was a little taken aback that, oh, Lord Nityananda needs Madhu. And there was no Madhu, there was no honey in the house. So he goes into his backyard, goes to the back of his house. And in Bengal, people typically in those days, they would have a small lake at the back of their house. It will be called a pushkarini or a pukur. And that would fulfill their needs, daily needs of water would come from that lake. Most of the houses have that in Bengal. So he goes to the pushkarini, he goes to that lake with a big vessel, and he fills up that vessel with water. And he's in this mood of a resident of Vrindavan. As soon as Balaramji asks for honey, he's in this mood of a resident of Vrindavan. So he goes to this lake at the back of his house and fills up a pot with water, and he brings it back. And he offers it to Lord Nityananda and also to Lord Gauranga. And as he pours this liquid from that vessel directly into Lord Nityananda's mouth, because he's in the mood of the resident of Vrindavan now. So Lord Nityananda has his hands cupped like this, and he's pouring it into it, and he's directly drinking it. It is actually honey. It is actually Madhu. And Lord Nityananda was so happy to have received honey. He starts dancing in ecstasy, and Narhari Sarkar starts dancing. Lord Gauranga is very happy, and Lord Gauranga also dances with them for a long time. Even today, if we go to Shrikhanda Dham and if you go to the house of Raghunandan Thakur, the brothers would be staying together. Then at the back of the house is the Pushkarini, is that Pukur, is that lake. Until today it is called as the Madhu Pushkarini. And the Gaurgonadesh Deepika, it has been revealed that Narhari Sarkar is one of the residents of Vrindavan, one of the gopis whose name is Madhumati. And her service is to bring honey to Radha and Krishna. And in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, Narari Sarkar offered honey from a lake of water by his intense devotion and by his miraculous potency, by the blessings of Lord Balaram, by the grace of Lord Chaitanya. He offered honey, madhu, to Lord Nityananda and blessed him. Narari Sarkar has been also mentioned by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his beautiful Gaura Arti. Nara Hari Kari Chamara Dulaya. Narari Sarkar is offering chamara, the whisk made of yak tail, to Lord Gauranga as he sits on a beautiful jeweled throne receiving worship. Um, in this month of Margashirsha, on the Ekadashi day of the dark fortnight, dark moon fortnight, the Krishna Paksha, Narari Sarkar disappeared from this mortal world, and Raghunandan Thakur had such a wonderful celebration. And in that celebration, Narari Sarkar appeared again to bless him because Raghunandan was feeling so much separation from Narari Sarkar. He was not just his uncle but also his spiritual master. And even today, we find in the house of Raghunandan the Samadhi of Narahari Sarkar there. The beautiful pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that have been revealed in the book called as Chaitanya Mangal was written by a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya by the name of Lochan Das Thakur. And Lochan Das Thakur is the prominent disciple of Narahari Sarkar. So I hope that all the devotees feel happy hearing about the sweet quality of honey, the honey of the lotus feet of the Lord, and the prosperity that one achieves taking shelter of Krishna, taking shelter of his lotus feet. And I also hope that we are pleased to hear about Narhari Sarkar, who offered honey from a lake of water to Lord Nityananda to please him, to satisfy him. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. I will stop here. Are there any questions or comments or clarifications? So please let me know.
Thank you, Prabhu, for another wonderful class. Honey, the symbol of sweetness and prosperity. So we understand how sweet is Lord's lotus feet, and that will be a good segue into next week's session that we are planning to discuss about the different symbols in the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So it'll be a nice, beautiful passage way into that as well. So thank you, Prabhu, for that. There are a couple of questions. So one is, how do we understand or realize whether we are tasting that sweetness you're talking about? Because the question is, sometimes we think we have some taste, but it doesn't last long. So that, it's temporary. So is it possible for us to be in that zone all the time for tasting that sweetness of the honey? Like when sportsmen, when they're in the zone, they are there, but you're not in the zone all the time. So is it flickering? Is it something that we need to work on to increase that connection into the sweetness longer and longer?
Thank you for that question. And I think it is appropriate for wanting to know whether it is possible for us to measure our status, to know our status in our devotional practices. It is the natural tendency to be able to do that. Um, Krishna consciousness is the natural state of existence of every living entity. It is a normal state of existence of every living entity. So, being embodied in a material body is not the regular existence of the living entity, and therefore we are troubled by the idea of or the inconsistency of a present existence, and especially the idea of death. Many a times people wonder whether death is really as painful as being bitten by 43,000 odd scorpions, something like that. So when we speak of a natural state of existence or normal state of existence, uh, normalcy does not in any way make us wonder about greatness or wonder about achievements. Being normal, uh, when one is feeling normal, one is not feeling up or down, either excited or morose. Uh, one does not generally consider or look at achievements because one is stable, one is peaceful, uh, one is just happy being in the present. So one of the ways that scriptures explain what is the ecstasy, what is the stage of being advanced or feeling the ecstasy or tasting the honey is that one feels peaceful, one feels equipoised, one feels stable in life, one does not feel any pushings in life. Uh, and the reason scriptures explain that is just as it has been explained that lust, pride, greed, envy, illusion, they kind of just subside. And the reason scripture explain that is because right now our life is governed by these various aspects. However, that is only from the material perspective. That is so that we can understand this state of existence. That we can understand our stage of purification through our material senses and material mind. Another state of existence that has been revealed by the scriptures is what is called as symptoms of ecstasy. It is like having goosebumps, hair standing on end, or horripilation, sweating a lot, being stunned. And when we read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, especially the Antya Leela, where some of these symptoms have been described being exhibited by Lord Chaitanya, we hear that sometimes he would exhibit the symptoms for 3 hours, 6 hours, 9 hours at a stretch. We hear of devotees who have been stunned for like practically 72 hours, which is like 3 days. Like Abhiram Gopal Thakur, he stood in this, um, he also stood in the threefold bending form with the trunk of a tree held in his two arms as if he's playing a flute for 72 hours. We hear of Vakreshwar Pandit dancing for 72 hours without stopping. These descriptions have been given in the scriptures. So forget 72 hours. Let us just think that if we are able to have these experiences for, let's say, 72 minutes, let's say 24 minutes, then from the material perspective, from the way the material mind and material senses measure things, that would be good progress. What are the symptoms that we're looking for? Like we are astounded just by the sound of the holy names. not by the music that's there, just the sound of the holy names. Like Lord Chaitanya, he heard someone sing the Gita Govinda, and he immediately was mesmerized. Govinda had to hold on to him and say, "My dear Lord, please don't go to that place, because as a sannyasi, you should not be visiting that place. So just stay where you are." So the sound of the holy names should astound one. Melody, which is spiritual melody. Sometimes melody is material, therefore we feel like constantly changing stations. We want different people to be singing different melodies. But there is a spiritual melody which is called as raga. For those who are trying to be good singers or good musicians, they understand what is raga. Raga is where you're able to kind of hold on to sound for a long time, just at that particular decibel, that particular surah. Just stay with that for hours together through practice. So 24 minutes, an hour, uh, like if not every day, at least every time we are in the middle of such an experience. Another symptom is revealed by Parikshit Maharaj. He's telling Sukadev Maharaj that please go on talking about the topics of Krishna, because as long as you're talking about the topics of Krishna, uh, my mind is focused, and I do not need to fear anything. I do not feel the need of hunger or thirst or even sleep. And the residents, the sorry, the the rishis of Naimi Sharanya are telling Suta Goswami that please go on describing the nectarine topics of Krishna, because wherever there is the nectarine topics of Krishna, there is no death, and therefore there is no fear of death. So please, in detail, describe the nectarian topics of Krishna. So hearing, tasting, seeing, these are the activities of the senses. And when the senses are focused, are astounded, it's like when we are completely hooked onto one of these activities of the 9 limbs of bhakti: Shravanam, Kirtanam, hearing about Krishna, glorifying Krishna, chanting about Krishna, remembering Krishna, any of these activities. Dhruva, the fourth canto, sorry, the Srimad Bhagavatam describes about Dhruva Maharaj, the seventh canto. Prahlad Maharaj, not Dhruva, Prahlad Maharaj, the seventh canto. He was stunned. Sometimes he would be so stunned, it's simply, he would feel the presence of Krishna as a young child. This was even before the appearance of Lord Narasimhadev, because he was constantly meditating upon the Lord, Prahlad Maharaj. Somehow he had access to that. He could feel the presence of Krishna. So when we have some bodily symptoms like that, the most common amongst such bodily symptoms would be tears from one's eyes or goosebumps. Being stunned and falling down unconscious would be uncommon. When these tears flow such that we want to just be there with Krishna, not with the melody, not with the decoration, but with Krishna, uh, who is the Supreme Lord. And when that stays with us for a long time, let's say for a half an hour, for 1 hour, and it does not disturb our services, at a very advanced stage, we'll be concerned that our emotions are disturbing our services. So let's say we don't have any services like Shringar, decoration of the deities, or cooking for the deities, or cleaning the temple, or arranging things for the altar at home, etc., etc., etc. but something just kind of mm, holds, makes us uh, completely mesmerized. Now, that experience has been described in the scriptures to be an experience of nishtha. Nishtha means firm faith. That is where one starts feeling the presence of Krishna. The anarthas, the shortcomings, the pollution, the contamination has been washed away, uh, almost washed away. Has been like most of the gross and semi-gross contaminations have been washed away. Very subtle contaminations could be remaining. So this kind of firm faith, it is called as nishtha. The translation is firm faith in English, and the idea of faith could mean holding on to something. It could mean being very defensive about one's uh, existence as Krishna's devotee, ready to defend against anything and not being never being disturbed or never being distracted from it. But that is not what nishtha, that is not all that nishtha implies. Nishtha also implies being able to hold on, being able to be in, being able to connect with for a substantial amount of time with Krishna, to hold on to Krishna. So that is also called as nishtha. Uh, so is that all right?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, Prabhu, thank you. And I think that hopefully answered the question by Srimati, because it was very practical what you mentioned. Even if it's a short period of time, and I guess we cultivate that habit of getting connected more and more with the sweetness that is there. So I think there were other couple of other questions. I think related to this, like how we are not able to connect with the sweetness when we are chanting, etc. But I think you gave the answer through this question as well as in your class notes. So I think we will stop with this right now, if it's okay with everybody, and we will have Prabhu again in the next couple of weeks to speak to us again.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Srila
Krishna.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Gaur
ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.